Revolution was last night. It was a great card from the start to almost the finish. Tony Khan, what are you doing with the World Title Championship? Why in the world do we still have Jon Moxley as champ? Let's get into it here on Screw the Script. 3, 2, 1. First match of the night for Revolution was actually a match that I predicted was going to be kind of in the middle of the card, but it was actually a banger to kick off the show. We had Hangman Adam Page and MJF, two homegrown stars in the company. They are both under the age of 35, so they both have a great future ahead of them in pro wrestling. And they put on an instant classic. This was a solid opening match for what was a packed Revolution card. So to put on that great of an opening match when it very easily could have gotten lost in the shuffle with all the other matches that we had announced for last night, this was a great match. Adam Page at one point, I remember, hit MJF with a move that I've never seen him do before, or at least not that I can recall. And I think it was called the Angel's Wings. Kind of an awkward landing, but a cool move nonetheless. And then you see Adam Page get the win, a clean win. Now, I made a prediction video a couple of nights ago, or a couple of days ago, that came out, and I actually had MJF winning this with some sort of cheating involved. And instead, we saw, not only did we see a clean match wrestled by MJF for the most part, we saw Hangman Adam Page get the win, a clean win. So I think he's off to a great 2025. He's going to get a big push again. I mean, he is one of the originals for the company, one of the original faces. He's very much kind of like a tweener, heel face, turns left and right. But great match. I think he's going to have a great 2025, big push coming forward to him, and I'll kind of get into that later on when I recap the main event. So we'll go in order of matches, starting with the next one. Not much to be said between Momo and the TBS champion Mercedes. It was a match. Probably my least favorite match on the card. Nobody expected Momo to win. Nobody was expecting Mercedes to drop the title of all people to somebody who has rarely even been on AEW TV. So this match probably, I get that you wanted to have the women's titles defended as well. But if you were going to do that, Revolution should have been the show that Harley Cameron faced Mercedes, I feel like, and not Momo. So for me, this was one of the only bad parts of the night. It was just a match, honestly. It could have been the main event of a Collision or even a Dynamite. But we saw it on this card. Mercedes retaining the title, which everyone assumed was going to happen. We did see a fun little bit, though, at the end. I had predicted that we would have gotten Harley Cameron involved in this match. She was on the card, but on the pre-show, which she deserves better than that. But I digress. Instead, we saw that new upcomer that is right now currently in ROH. She's only like 19 years old. Billy Starks. She was kind of just off into the crowd looking at Mercedes, so I'm assuming we're going to get an angle with those two next. But that's all I have to say with that match. Swerve versus Ricochet, exactly how I expected it to be, just a spot fest between the two of them. But it was really good, and I will say it again, Ricochet turning heel was the best move for his career. He is so good at being a heel. He is a lot more interesting now than he ever was when he was in WWE. And he had a solid feud with Swerve. I don't think it ends. We saw Swerve win this match, and now he is the number one contender, which we'll get to later on. Like I said, in order of matches, we'll talk about Swerve a little bit more after I cover the main event. But I think that something happens with Swerve being the number one contender. As for this match, hard hitting, a lot of crazy spots. These two can go. Ricochet has so much gas in the tank. He could wrestle an Iron Man match and still do all these crazy flips that he can do. I believe he was a gymnast when he was younger. So it's He surely is incredible in the ring. So is Swerve. Not going to take anything from him. This match was really well done. The build up to it was really well done over the last few weeks or a month or so. And the interesting thing, okay, the best part of this match for me, aside from all the great spots, was Prince Nana getting hit or shoved or something by Swerve, and then we see him look like, oh boy, he's walking off. Is he turning on Swerve? And then later on, he comes in, he distracts Ricochet with the robe that he has, and Swerve gets the roll up win. That was a lot of fun. So that's my coverage on that match, and we'll get on to the next one here. Next is Okada versus Brody King, another championship match. But like I said in my prediction video, this was one of the more predictable outcomes of the night, and it was exactly how I expected it to be. We saw Okada retain, but it was a very, very hard-hitting battle between him and Brody King. Brody King is getting a push that he deserves. I hope this loss doesn't take him away from a mid-card title picture. I hope he continues this. Maybe he can move on over to Kenny Omega, which I'll cover here shortly, and maybe get a feud in there. As for the match, like I said, very hard-hitting. Really saw a different part of Okada in this because it's been a while since he's had a match against a big man as big as Brody King. But again, solid match nonetheless, just unfortunately very, very predictable. So I had this at kind of the bottom of the card in terms of excitement. But again, Okada retains, and I think for a very specific reason, which I'll get into later on. But that's all I have on that match, and let's move on to the next one. The Outrunners versus the Hurt Syndicate was a lot more fun than it needed to be. It was the Outrunners, keep on pushing them. They are hilarious. They are exactly what AEW needs for a comedic but yet great tag team that they had for a while in the Acclaimed, but now that they have since part ways, it feels like the Outrunners are kind of getting the Acclaimed sort of treatment where they are a fun, energetic tag team, but still solid in the ring. They can hold their own ground in the ring for sure. And so I think, keep pushing them. Yes, they didn't win. We all saw this coming. We saw that the Hurt Syndicate was going to retain. I don't think anyone out there thought the Outrunners was going to win, but it was still a fun and entertaining match nonetheless. And man, does the Hurt Syndicate look dominant. I don't know who is going to be able to challenge them for the tag titles. I sure hope to God it's not the Young Bucks when they come back. Don't get me wrong. I love the Young Bucks for what they have done for the industry, how they helped start AEW, but just the last couple of years, I don't know, just they don't need to get the belts again for the fourth time. If they come back and challenge the Hurt Syndicate, I really, really hope that they lose just to push the Hurt Syndicate even further into AEW dominance for the tag division. But again, there really wasn't any bad matches tonight in terms of wrestling, just a bad outcome, which again I'll get to later on, which everyone probably knows what that is, but again, going in order. So solid tag match all around, and I'm looking forward to see what Hurt Syndicate gets into next, as well as the Outrunners. So the AEW Women's Championship match was the match that I said I was most excited for on the card, and my God, did those two women deliver. Mariah May versus Toni Storm in their final match. What did they call it again? The Hollywood ending, yeah. So the Hollywood ending was exactly what they needed in this feud. It was, again, an incredible feud from start to finish over the last, 6 to 9 months, I believe. It's been the better part of half a year or so. And they, like I said, they completely delivered. This was exactly what they needed to do to finalize their feud. It was a lot more gory than I expected it to be. We saw both show color. The champagne glass spot was nasty. You got that at the entrance before the match started. I thought that was just a little billboard. I had no clue that it was a painted table, so that was fun. And that's actually where the match ended, with Toni Storm hitting the Storm Zero at the very end after they both just beat the living shit out of each other. Amazing match. I would say this is probably a tie or close second match of the night, with a match that I'll get to here in just a second. But this was the best women's feud in all of pro wrestling in the last half year. It's sad to see that it ends, but like I've said before in previous videos, all in good time. You can't have something last forever. Eventually things run stale. And so this delivered exactly what it needed to in the perfect amount of time. And I just sure hope that Tony Storm can get in another fun and engaging feud with the next person. Kenny Omega versus Takeshita was next. And okay, so it's hard to unpack this one because I love Kenny Omega, but we all know with his diverticulitis that I don't think he's ever going to have the matches that he had, 5, even 3 years ago. But still, nonetheless, it was a solid match. I'd probably say it was around my fourth favorite match of the night. We got to see Takeshita showcase his abilities. We got to see Omega back finally, looking pretty much to full strength again. I did love the in-ring psychology of this match. I did say in my prediction video a couple of days ago that this was going to be the best match in terms of pure wrestling. I stand by that. I think this was the best pure wrestling match of the night. Kenny Omega selling like the rib cage and like the intestinal area of the entire match, where we saw Takeshita drop him like abdomen first on the outside barricade a couple of times on the side of a table. That was gross. Great spot, but ooh. And just a hard-hitting title match. And then we got the outcome that I predicted, the outcome that I wanted. We saw Kenny Omega win the title. And that's where I think Brody King gets involved, hopefully, since he lost to Okada. Maybe he bounces over to this title, and Omega has a good feud with him for a minute. And the prediction that I've thought about, and, this is not my credit, but I've seen the rumor going around that they may unify those two titles that Okada and Omega now have with a feud leading up to maybe All In later this summer. And then the winner, winner takes all, and they unify the titles. That sounds like an epic, fun clash between those two who have an amazing in-ring history together when they were in New Japan. So I'm all for that. That would be the feud of the summer, probably. It would probably co-main event the AEW title match for All In. Please give me that. That sounds incredible. But yes, this was, I'd say, like third or fourth favorite match of the night. Solid win for Kenny Omega. The steel cage match between Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay was match of the night. This is how you do a cage match. I am not biased. I have watched pro wrestling for 25 years now. But one huge complaint that I have had for many, many, many years in the WWE is their rules for a steel cage match. I have always thought escaping the cage was really stupid. It's always been really stupid. They haven't changed it. I think they're kind of locked in with it now because AEW does it differently. They do it better. Hate on how I feel all you want. If you don't agree, but I'm standing by that. I will die on the hill that AEW presents steel cage matches better. It's very, very special. I think this is only the fourth or fifth steel cage match we have seen in AEW history. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last one was Kenny Omega, when Don Callis turned on him like 2 years ago. I can't remember a steel cage match between then and now. I could be wrong. Maybe there was one. But like I said, it's very rare, so it's a great treat when they do it. And these two delivered. They beat the shit out of each other for like a solid half an hour. That spot at the end when they were both on the top of the cage and Will Ospreay hit him with, I can't remember what it was that he hit him with. I think it was... Well, anyways, the move that he hit him with at the top of the cage was insane. That spot, I thought Fletcher was just broken. I thought he had broken some ribs and wasn't even able to move. He sold that really well. Maybe he did sustain some real injury, which I wouldn't be shocked from after that finish. But this was how you do a steel cage match. It was brutal, Both men were busted open by the end of it. There was some gnarly spots, great use of the ring. We saw the door open at one point, and Mark Davis got involved, which I knew was going to happen. I thought that he was going to turn on the Don Callis family early on and maybe help Kenny Omega, but that didn't happen. That's okay. Still doesn't hold back from the match. This was match of the night, easily. One of the best steel cage matches I've seen in some time. This is not recency bias. I slept on it. I woke up on it, and I thought, yeah, that's probably a top 5 steel cage match in the last 10 years. So, yeah, this was match of the night. This really pushes Will Ospreay into the world title picture, I think, at some point this year. Kyle Fletcher didn't lose any credibility because he went all out in this match, and they both put on a solid, memorable steel cage match. This is up there with the likes of Cody Rhodes when he was still in the company, and he had that cage match against Wardlow back in 2019 or early 2020, just on an episode of Dynamite, I believe. That was a great cage match. This is up there with that. This is up there with many other historic cage matches that I've seen in my lifetime. That's so good the steel cage match was. I was expecting it to be great. It surpassed my expectations. So again, I'm going to give them a quick clap, just myself. Will Ospreay, you are probably, in terms of just in-ring wrestling, the best wrestler in the world right now. And I'm going to stand by that. So that is my coverage on my, match of the night. And it was a co-main event. Now I'm going to take a breath because we are going to get to the very, very controversial ending. Tony Khan, what are you doing? What are you doing? I am starting to get just like many fans. We are frustrated as hell that we once again see Jon Moxley leave as champ. This match fell flat, and it fell flat hard. After that cage match, after the Omega match, all these other great matches that led up to this main event, that's what you put on? Not going to, discredit the Rated R superstar Cope. For his age, great performance. But what you did, how you did it, what you got wrong in multiple ways, not just one, that is not how you finish what should have been. If this had a better finish, this would have been probably top 3 AEW pay-per-view in company history. But instead, I don't know if it may still crack the top 5 for me just because every other match aside from one was amazing. But this is almost as sour of a taste in the mouth as that barbed wire death match mishap during Full Gear from like 4 years ago, I think it was. That's so bad this ending was. You screw over Christian for what? Christian is smarter than that. He would not cash in when the match is still going, unless there is a rule in that contract where he had to do it during a match. But why not wait till afterwards? Why make him look like a complete buffoon where he comes in and cashes it in, and then he gets choked out in 30 seconds, which is beyond ridiculous because Cope had just had a 20-minute exchange with Jon Moxley until the end of that match, and he was getting choked, and he didn't pass out. But then you see Christian come in, full health, no moves done to him whatsoever. He was still in his suit, for God's sakes, and he passes out. Now, what could have made this happen, what could have made this better was the little thing that we saw towards the end where Christian was trying to cover Cope while he was getting choked out. Man, if that would have been the way it ended, if he would have won the title off of that, because the ref did try and pin him, if I'm not mistaken, or count to 3, and then Moxley tore him off of him and then choked him out. Oh man, this I've slept on it. I wake up and I still feel like they just completely fumbled the main event of what should have been, like I said, top 3 pay-per-view in company history. What are you doing with the Death Riders? Nobody cares anymore. It is stale as hell. Now you have Moxley having the title for at least another month, because we see Swerve attack him at the end of the match. Okay, That was at least a little bit of kind of a high to end the show on with Swerve jumping him. But it didn't make up for it whatsoever. The crowd was mild. Yes, Moxley is doing great as a heel in all of this because he really, after that pin, he was leaving through the crowd and flicking people off left and right, and they were doing it in reception. So, good on Moxley for being that heel, pulling off this heel persona. He's doing well with that, but the storyline behind it is just not there anymore. And I'm not going to lie, a part of me again last night was hoping, okay, what is in that briefcase? Because there was a line at one point where Taz said, "What we assume is the world title in that briefcase." So why would you say that? I don't know. I feel like there's still something there, but it's taken way too long. I was hoping for something like this. I was hoping for either Cope winning or a cool way of Christian winning, like I said, when he was about to pin Edge while he was getting choked out. And then whoever had won picks up that briefcase and is like, okay, here it is. I won. Here's the title. I'm going to show it to the fans, what fans have been wanting to see for months because it has been kept off TV. You open it up, and then instead it's a red herring. There's no title in there. It's a contract and a bunch of white papers, and then they could have had some insane debut to close out the show. But instead, they didn't do any of that. They screwed up. That's the best way to explain it. They screwed up. And I really hope that they can somehow fix the world title picture because it has been lacking for months now. This could have been so much more. It could have been so much better to close out a great show. And honestly, it knocks the show off a whole point for me. I was ready to give it a solid 9 out of 10 last night because, nothing's perfect. So I wasn't going to give it a 10 out of 10. But this honestly knocked it back to now that I've slept and sat on it, woke up, this was an 8 out of 10 show just purely for that abysmal end. That it really took a whole point off for me. When I want to rate the show, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. They've got to do something about this world title picture. But hey, that felt like free therapy. I got my rant off. And that is my coverage on AEW's Revolution last night. Besides the main event and besides the TBS women's title match, every other match slapped hard. It was a great show. I hope all of you enjoyed it. And at the end of the day of all of this, I'm still extremely excited to see where AEW is heading through 2025. They have had a great 2025 besides the world title picture, really. So this was Maverick again. And thanks for listening to Screw the Script.